Today we're recapping a 2021 movie titled Nobody. Before we dive in, remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. The film begins with a battered, handcuffed man who, while smoking a cigarette, retrieves a tin of tuna from his pocket. He then places a kitten, previously concealed in his jacket, onto the table opposite him, where a woman and a man are interrogating him. Hutch Manel seems to live an ordinary life with his wife Becca, a successful professional, and their 2 children. His position at his father-in-law Eddie's metal fabrication company is unremarkable, and he grows increasingly discontented with his everyday routine. His son Blake shows him blatant disrespect, not even greeting him upon his return home. One night Hutch hears a commotion downstairs and discovers intruders breaking into his house. He tries to call for help, but a female intruder confronts him with a gun. While she demands his wedding ring, Hutch notices a tattoo on her wrist. At that moment, Blake intervenes by tackling one of the intruders. Hutch readies himself to defend his family with a golf club but hesitates, instructing Blake to let the intruder go. Subsequently, the intruder strikes Blake, leaving him with a black eye. The family is disappointed in Hutch, who feels frustrated with himself for not protecting them better. That night, Hutch sleeps on the couch while his daughter Sammy, the only family member still connected to him, joins him and expresses her desire for a cat. The next day, Blake requests an interview with Hutch for a veterans project. Hutch downplays his past, and Becca suggests that Blake interview his uncle, a real soldier, as the family departs. Before leaving, Sammy hugs Hutch goodbye. A neighbor then criticizes Hutch for not fighting back against the intruders and boasts about his new car at work. Hutch's brother-in-law Charlie questions his lack of action and hands him a gun for protection, which Hutch stores in a box in the fridge. Later on, Eddie offers to buy Hutch's share of the business, and Hutch expresses his desire for something that belongs solely to him. Hutch contacts his supposedly deceased brother Harry via radio, explaining that he hesitated to confront the intruders because of their youth and desperation, and reveals that their gun was unloaded. Harry advises him not to act recklessly. At home, Hutch's father questions him about his former self while the family gathers at the dinner table. Blake barely acknowledges him. Becca asks about his day, and Sammy is upset over a lost kitty cat bracelet stolen by the intruders. Hutch visits his father again, who urges him to handle his mission well. He then borrows his father's old FBI badge and gun to track down the burglars at a tattoo parlor. Flashing the badge, which one of the tattoo artists mocks for being outdated, Hutch insists that he is just a man searching for someone, even daring them to take the cash from his wallet. When onlookers notice the tattoo on his wrist, their attitude shifts. A man asks how they can help, and Hutch points to a tattoo and a photo they provide him, along with the address of the person who bears the matching tattoo. Hutch arrives at the address and confronts the girl's boyfriend with his gun drawn, demanding the return of his watch and the kitty cat bracelet. Their loud argument awakens their sick baby, prompting Hutch to step outside. Overwhelmed by both anger and sadness, he punches a wall in frustration, then boards a bus, only for it to be halted by a group of thugs. As the thugs board the bus and intimidate the passengers, a young girl and a frightened female driver watch on. Seated at the back, Hutch rises and walks past them. He instructs the driver to leave the bus and then locks the doors facing the thugs. Hutch removes the bullets from his gun, an act that amuses the thugs, and, fueled by frustration, unleashes a brutal attack that severely injures them. Afterward, he apologizes to the driver for the chaos. Upon returning home, Hutch finds his wife waiting in the dark. When she inquires about his whereabouts, he replies that it felt like old times as she tends to his wounds. Hutch admits that he feels distant from her, and laments the loss of intimacy in their marriage, prompting Becca to remove the pillow separating them in bed and tenderly begin to touch him. In the next scene, Julian Keto Stove, a mob enforcer, exits a car and heads into a club. He performs on stage before approaching a group of men to ask if they're satisfied with the security for OBAC. Although they confirm their satisfaction, one man criticizes Julian's performance. Annoyed, Julian kills one of the stakeholders to restore their confidence. He then receives a phone call and is later seen standing by his brother's bedside, who has suffered severe brain damage. Julian suspects the attack is connected to Option, and another injured man shows him a Metro card he found during the bus fight. The following day, Hutch appears more upbeat and proud of his son's bravery. he receives a call from his brother instructing him to see a man known as the Barber. The Barber reveals that one of the thugs Hutch subdued is actually Julian's younger brother, a wealthy Russian crime lord. Despite his disdain for his brother, Julian is determined to exact revenge. The Barber explains that OBAC is a massive operation handling millions, with Julian serving as its current overseer. Soon after, Julian learns that Hutch's father is residing in a nursing home, and that efforts are underway to track Hutch's location. His secretary even blackmails a Pentagon official to search for Hutch's information, only to find that he is listed as unknown. Hutch appears content as he prepares a meal for his family and proposes a trip to Italy. However, when he notices an approaching car, he immediately instructs everyone to head to the basement. Julian has dispatched his dogs, led by his right-hand man Pavel, to attack Hutch. Fiercely, Hutch fights back, killing most of the assailants before Pavel incapacitates him with a taser. They then force Hutch into a car, but he manages to dislocate his wrists to escape the handcuffs. Using a fire extinguisher, he blinds his captors and causes the car to crash as Pavel is dying. Hutch then reveals his true identity. He rushes back home to unlock the basement for his family, calling David on the run to warn him to be cautious. Hutch rescues his family from the panic room, shielding Sammy's eyes from the gruesome scene, and sends Becca and the kids to safety, with Becca urging him to ensure his return once they are gone. Placing the bodies and injured men on his couch, Hutch addresses them, and discloses that he is a former auditor turned assassin for intelligence agencies, tasked with eliminating those who consider themselves untouchable. He further reveals that he once spared a man who went on to build a happy life, a decision that led him to retire against his superior's wishes. Although he has since tried to avoid his old life, he now must cover up the evidence of his recent actions. Hutch sets his house on fire and takes a family photograph with him as he exits. Then he steals his obnoxious neighbor's car and drives away. Shortly afterward, two assassins arrive at the nursing home and head straight for Hutch's father's room, where his father pretends to be asleep. However, Hutch kills both assassins before they can act. Next, he dumps a bag of gold bars onto Eddie's desk, informing him that he is buying the company. Meanwhile, Julian watches news footage revealing Pavel's death and learns that Hutch has temporarily closed the factory, Hutch's desk now covered with weapons and ammunition. Harry contacts Hutch via radio, and Hutch outlines his plan. He drives to the location where the mob is counting the OPAC money and makes a dramatic entrance, opening fire as he sets Julian's valuable artwork and money ablaze. Then, Hutch heads to the club to confront Julian, who is surrounded by his henchmen. Revealing an explosive device concealed under his napkin, Hutch sits across from Julian and taunts him with the knowledge that everything Julian owned has been destroyed. Enraged, Julian is given a choice by Hutch, to pursue him or take what's left and flee before Hutch leaves the club. Furious, Julian mobilizes his entire workforce to hunt Hutch, who is now at the factory with David and Harry. They employ advanced weaponry and strategic traps to eliminate the gangsters. Although Julian shoots Harry, Hutch retaliates with a claymore mine attached to bulletproof glass, which kills Julian. Hutch thanks Harry and David, who depart just as police cars arrive. Before leaving, Hutch leaves a loving message for Becca and departs with a kitten wrapped in a painting. Returning to the film's opening scene, Hutch is quickly released without charges. 3 months later, while house hunting with Becca, Hutch receives a call indicating that his services are still needed. In a mid-credit scene, Harry and David are shown driving an RV filled with guns to an undisclosed location, and that is how the movie ends.